Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day. So far on a sad day in the Call of Duty world yesterday with Crimsix announcing his retirement from professional play. Loads of reaction to this we're going to dive in today, and also some further reasoning as to why Crimsix decided to step away. He reckons he realised that he probably wasn't going to be able to compete right after he was initially dropped by the New York subliners, and also saying that he's very much looking forward to not having to work for an organisation and be kind of, well, strapped with potential fines and other difficulties that are associated with actually playing in the CDL. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. It really helps out the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that one. Firstly, even before Crim went on to retire, was this that came up from Doug said to Martin. I woke up this morning to multiple sources confirming that Modern Warfare 2 feels just like Ghost. On this day 8 years ago, I was on the #1 team in Ghost, won 2 major championships, body slammed Crimsix twice, and was the #1 seed for the World Championship. It is my year, he says. So look, as we saw earlier today, the game might not play quite as much like Ghost as some were initially thinking, but yeah, could still be Doug's year regardless, I suppose. This also just to say real quick from Drazah, because I don't really understand why it takes quite so long. Like, yeah, please charge the phone, Muddo. But for the CDL to actually give out the rings, right? Because you'd have thought, even like back in the day, did they not used to have the rings at the event, right? I'm pretty sure MLG and the CWL will actually prepare the rings in advance of the event. So when one team wins, the rings actually go on their fingers right then and there at the venue. Now, it turns out nowadays, you win the World Championship, you lift the trophy, and you have to wait, what, 2, 3, 4 months or whatever to actually get your rings in the post or whatever. So, I don't know, it kind of takes the allure away to some degree. Of course, back in Modern Warfare 2020, we got some pretty cool stuff. They got, I don't know if they got sneakers or something, but there was that throne, right, that kind of the guys flew in with a helicopter, landed by the throne, and then Crim was on the throne, iLLeY was on the throne, stuff like this. That was pretty cool. There was some other stuff they got awarded as well, but I don't really understand why the CDL doesn't just deliver the rings a little bit earlier, and I guess Drazah's like, look, Marlo, get on their back to actually make sure we get these rings ASAP. Now, some Rostermania drama to dive into as well here. This, to me, if this is true, and I actually heard about this as well a couple of days ago, that this could be a massive fumble by London, in my opinion at least. I said the other day that, you know, Wardy is surely got to be the go-to guy, I would have thought, for London if they want to build a team that actually has the slaying power that Afro had. Wardy been one of the top prospects for a couple of years. This past season was fantastic in the challenger side. SMG player that, you know, should have been, in my opinion, the perfect replacement to Afro, right? If Afro's going to go, then you've at least got to try Wardy. They've gone on a different route potentially, London, because we believe that Asima's going there now. Nasty, Zero, Paul X is potentially the roster of 4, which, as I say, I don't think is necessarily striking fear into the heart of a lot of the league. I do think this team has some decent upside potential, as in if they get deep in a tournament, I think that Asim has a decent chance to actually help them get over the line in that sense, but they are relying heavily on Nasty being a huge slaying presence. It's a strange decision that they have made, especially if New York subliners manage to get Wardy as their sub, because of course on their team, Wardy SMG player, but they've got Kismet, they've got Hydra. Hydra's going to be their guy, but you know, Kismet, maybe they're thinking, well, is Kismet the long-term solution here? Maybe something else can be figured out, and also the fact that maybe Hydra could even run a flex, or, you know, there's a possibility of that happening. I'm pretty sure he could do that if he was required to, and then maybe there's a world in which if Priester doesn't deliver, you think, okay, Wardy and Kismet as your SMGs, Hydra the flex, who knows? But I like that option for the New York subliners to go down this route. If, for example, Boston are signing Beans and well, New York are signing Wardy, then those are two big talents, the two key talents from the UK challenger scene from the last season that London have effectively either passed on or failed to execute on. So to me, it's a bit of a fumble by London if this comes true, but we shall see, of course, over the coming days. Now, speaking of New York, we get this from Caesar Skies to Texas I Go. He says, obviously, some actually cracking numbers here from Skies on LAN. Remarkable his numbers are this good. He had a 1.41 in search on LAN this past season. Like, that is ridiculous numbers. So, like, anyway, he's going to the New York subliners, we believe. To Texas I Go, he says, because the subliners, I believe, are based in Texas. So that, I suppose, makes a fair bit of sense. Now, there's this also on Vegas, as kind of Scrimmintel points out, that the present rumor is Clay, Temp, TJ. He reckons that Temp and TJ, like, that's guaranteed pretty much, and we believe that's the case. Now, Clay, I think, surely still makes sense. I'd be surprised if, I mean, look, hopefully Clay and Crim don't retire in the same season. We shall see. This is probably Clay's best chance, but it's still not guaranteed, of course, to happen. But, I mean, yeah, Clay, Temp, TJ +1. Now, Venom was actually a name that was linked to this team quite a while ago, and maybe has been in conversation, maybe he hasn't. Now, Prolude, we actually saw yesterday, was in discussions as well. Now, whether Prolude either joins this team as an SMG player, or whether he joins this team on the bench, or another team on the bench, who knows, but I think Prolude should get a spot somewhere. Now, whether the TJ Venom thing is good, I'm not really convinced, but I think, honestly, I don't mind it so much just because I'm pretty sure Los Angeles Thieves back in Cold War, probably the best iteration of their roster they had, which was before Huke came available, right? When Huke came available, they bought him because they thought we've got to have Huke, right? And it didn't really help them. But, you know, TJ and Venom, the team that they had right before they bought out Huke from Dallas Empire, was probably the best they looked all season with TJ and Venom, I believe, as the SMG combo. So I do like Venom. I think he can be a good player, deserving of a spot in the league. Apparently, those are the two options right now for the Vegas Legion as it stands. Let's dive into the Crimsix stuff then, right? So, greatest of all time by the numbers. What a phenomenal career that he's had. But Crimsix has decided to step away. Of course, he gave a, you know, lengthy explanation. We looked at in yesterday's video as to exactly why, what he's doing next, going into content and the like. And there was some great reaction, I thought, to this from around the scene. And I thought this is a nice statement here from Jacob as well, because many players, when they have retired, haven't exactly gone out on a high. And it's not like Crim's going out on a high per se, because, you know, obviously this last season wasn't ideal. But look, he goes out on a season where he won an event. He had another Grand Finals appearance at Major 4. He made a crazy run to the World Championship after having a tragic start to the season. Like, that's a pretty damn good way to go out, right? I think Crim probably realizes that to a certain degree, that if he was to come back next year on a Vegas or a Florida, like, you know, he's not going to be able to have the same results. So, difficult decision for Crim to decide to step away, and maybe he was forced into it to some extent. But I do think at the end of the day, it was in part his own decision, right, to decide to call it quits. As Jacob says, it's probably the best way that anyone's really gone out so far, right? Because usually players at the end of their careers, they have a bad year or a bad season, and then they call it a day. Crim had a pretty decent season by most players' standards, really, this last year, which is definitely a Crimsix way to go out of there at the end of the day. And I mean, yeah, look at this, right? 2014, 2017, 2020 World Championship winner. Like, I mean, yeah, every 3 years he won the World Championship, right? And of course, next year, 2023, like, I mean, come on, why not give him a go? But, I mean, yeah, this team of 4 now, of course, all retired. The old Complexity team, we'll see that here in a second. Just wanted to look at some of his numbers, actually. The career card for Crimsix, Pro Tournament 89. Like, it's kind of sad in a way, because Crim was, like, I know that he was targeting, I imagine, Ogre 2's record of 40 or 40 whatever championships that Ogre 2 won in the Halo days, and Crim couldn't quite get to that point. If the CDL didn't arrive for a few years, like, I think there might have been a chance for Crim, right? If the CWL existed, more events, it was like the Advanced Warfare season every year, Crim could have done it, right? But, yeah, it turned out it wasn't really the case. But, I mean, yeah, still, average placing of about 4th, like, that's still, to be honest, absurd. Like, he won, I mean, look at this, right? He won 38 out of 89 tournaments. If you consider his numbers going into, let's say he retired after Modern Warfare, his tournament win rate would have been something like almost in the 45-50% range. Like, it was absurd how Crim for a long time had won half of all the tournaments he'd ever attended. That record fell off a bit the last couple of seasons, understandably, really, but, I mean, yeah, series win-loss, I mean, 76% of all series he ever played, he won. Finals appearances, 51, 38 tournament wins, 3 rings at the World Championship, $1.4 million in prize earnings. So, fantastic career. Shame he didn't really break the all-time record, I suppose, of Ogre 2 and those championship victory numbers, but I think it makes sense for Crim to step away now. And as he says, you know, thanks for all the kind words, this type of stuff. So, I'm sure he's going to kill it on the next step in the content side. A lot of, you know, former pros, even the likes of TP and stuff, have gone to Warzone and done incredibly well for themselves. So, I think Crim can do the same thing. Obviously, you know, larger-than-life personality, not just a larger-than-life player. So, I'm sure the community is certainly wishing the best for Crim in this kind of next adventure and stuff. But I wanted to share a couple of clips here, one of which from his stream last night, where he said that as soon as he was made unrestricted by New York, that was kind of when he knew it was chalk to him, because, like, he believed that they would have made him restricted if there was interest in him, but by letting him go for free, made him believe that, like, yeah, no team really wants me right now, and if I am to get a spot, I'm going to have to try really hard, and it's probably not worth it for me. And also going on to say that the kind of threat of fines and the pressure of playing for other organizations and playing under the CDL and the implications that comes with that, like, he kind of had enough of it.
I was dropped as an unrestricted free agent was the moment I knew I was done. I knew I was done. Because I'm like, that never happens. The only reason why they dropped me as unrestricted is if they've already went to teams and everyone's already said no. That'd be the only reason. But that was the moment when I absolutely, like, deep down, I didn't know, like, I still wanted to check.
One of the times in my life where I'm probably most motivated, because I'm not working for someone else right now. I'm not trying to, you know, I'm not under the threat of, you know, a fine or a do this or a, you know, come into work. This is the times when you got to be here. you know, all this stuff, right? I've now put myself in a spot where I can fully commit to myself. I can fully commit to the exact things that I want to do. You know, not just for the next step, but for the next mile or so in my life.
So it was interesting, I thought, that he mentioned fines specifically, right? Maybe not just from the CDL, but also from his own organization, right? But the idea that playing under these organizations, having to do this, having to turn up at X time for the facility, like, of course, you know, it's what I find interesting about being a COD Pro player. Like, you make a lot of money, but you don't necessarily have the freedom of your own decisions and when you work and when you don't work. Like, of course, you've got to, you know, work for the organization, and they've got their own standards and obligations, all this type of stuff. You become a content creator, then you get freed up in that sense, right? You make the calls. Crim doesn't have to worry about getting fined, or, you know, he can say what he wants. If he wants to say something bad about the CDL or about the league or about certain other players or about the referees or whatever, like, you know, he's now free to do it, right? So he's now free to comment on everything from afar without worrying about all these issues about, okay, yeah, the CDL's going to take X amount of money out of my paycheck or whatever because I talked trash on Daniel Sai or whatever he might have done. But definitely intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Was now about the right time for Crim to step away? And I mean, yeah, I think a lot of his reasons make a lot of sense. I'm just sure it was a really challenging decision for Crim to have to commit to, because he knew it was the right idea, but actually doing it is a totally another level, of course. But I think it makes sense, all things considered. It's a sad day, of course. Now the question is really, of the other OG players that are still around, how long will they compete for? Because I think Attach is now, despite still looking 19, I think Attach is maybe 26 now, and you've got Slasher, who is now 28. Slasher is now the oldest player in the league, except from if Clayster comes back to Vegas, then he'll be the oldest at 30. But I mean, yeah, honestly, it's weird to me to Slasher, because like Crim's 29 and was talking about the frustrations of trying to, well, communicate with the younger guys and keep up, right, and like actually, well, having to put in way more time to stay at that level, whereas Slasher at 28 doesn't really seem to be feeling like that to a certain extent. I feel like Slasher probably thinks he's got quite a lot left in the tank, really. I think Slasher can easily make it to 30, for example, and Attach probably can easily go another several years as well. So I don't know what you guys think about that, because Scump, of course, is at 27, and like Scump might be seeing Crim and these guys retire and think, well, damn, my time is coming soon. But then you've got guys like Slasher and Attach and these guys who've been around for ages that might stay competing for a lot longer. So I'm not sure it's a guarantee that Scump will retire after this season just because the other Dynasty members have retired the last few years. But I mean, look, we'll see. I think it depends on how this season goes. This would also be absolutely fantastic. I really hope this happens to at least some degree. When Egg says first challengers cover the year for the one time, Crim, Karma, Teep bring back the old Complexity team that have now all officially retired of course, the 2014 world champions from competitive play. Like, yeah, bring these guys back for one of the early Challengers Cups. Hope it happens, right? It would be really entertaining to watch. And Crim is generally built different in Infinite Warfare games anyway, so maybe they can actually do rather well. Who knows what will happen there? And well, just to mention this, actually, as Lyman kind of points out, only one left now from the Dynasty days. These are the career cards, I believe, that, well, actually, I'll bring this on screen first for you guys. These are the career cards that Lyman has made every single time that these guys retired. And I mean, yeah, this was Karma's one when he stepped away on the Seattle Surge that season, Formal after last year, and then Crimsix after this year. So yes, only one remains from the OpTic Dynasty. That man is Scump. Not his greatest season, of course, by the numbers, but Scump did have a phenomenal start to last season. I think when the iLLeY thing kicked in, it kind of affected the team's performance and Scump's individual performance as well to a certain extent. So I think he knows that he's still got the performance in him to deliver the goods. He's got a good team around him. So hopefully Scump stays around for at least a couple of more seasons, but it's not a good trend that we've seen really with the OpTic Dynasty stepping away over the last few years. But very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, hitting a like button tells the YouTube gods this is a good video. Others like you should see it as well, and help grow the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you for watching as always. Take care, and I'll see you next time.